Hi, friends. It's Sarah, the Fat Culture Critic. So, over the last couple years, I've made some of these shorter essays talking about one particular scene, one scene that speaks to some, important truth of us, I guess. I started with hope, and then there was joy, and then resistance. This is going to be another one of those. This time we're talking about forgiveness. But this isn't actually a scene where someone forgives. This is a scene where it's important that he doesn't. It's an incredible scene, and I really want to talk about it, but I need to be careful how I speak on YouTube without getting demonetized. So there is a certain word that I cannot say. So just know that's why I'm not saying the word. So this scene is from the 90s sci-fi show Babylon 5. And Babylon 5 is, if there was one show that I wished was less relevant to the world, it would be Babylon 5. Because it is an exploration of the cycles of violence and oppression, of authoritarianism and fascism, and how we resist, and how we break the cycles, and how we don't break the cycles. It is a remarkable piece of television. It was written in the early 90s as the Cold War was ending and the USSR had collapsed and there were wars in the Balkans. And so it was a time when a lot of these ideas were, relevant in a different way than they are now. But the players have changed, but the board has not changed a whole lot in 30 years. And the way the show explores colonialism is an arc between two species called the Narn and the Centauri, and particularly through the ambassadors to Babylon 5, Jakar for the Narn and Londo Mollari for the Centauri. So at the beginning of the series, the Narn have recently liberated themselves from the Centauri who were colonizing their planet, enslaving their people. But the Narn have also learned from their oppressor to become oppressors, which, complicated cycles of violence, right? But that's just sort of set up. And then Londo, the Centauri ambassador, makes a sort of deal with the devil to make Centauri great again.
I want a rebirth of glory, a renaissance of power. I want to stop running through my life like a man late for an appointment, afraid to look back or to look forward. I want us to be what we used to be.
And he takes a number of steps that culminate in a of the entire Narn planet and the decimation of their population. And the scene I'm talking about happens shortly after that, but it actually doesn't include Mollari. See, there's this other Centauri character who is Londo's clerk. His name is Veer. And Veer is adorable and relatable, possibly the most relatable character in the show. And he's really sweet and wouldn't hurt a fly on his own. But he also is Londo's aide, and he does what Londo asks. At times he tries to talk back, but ultimately he always does his job. And then in the penultimate episode of season 2, Veer backs into an elevator and finds himself alone with Jakar. Jakar, the leader of the Narn. Jakar, who he has known, he's worked with, whose people, Veer's people, have just committed a gangster. And Veer, Veer doesn't see himself as a bad guy. He's visibly uncomfortable. He knows Jakar, and there's just so much nonverbal performance going on. There's these words are just like trying to come out, and then
I'm sorry. I wish there was something that I could do, but I tried telling them, but they wouldn't listen. I mean, they never listen. I'm sorry.
And Jakar is silent as he speaks, and then he pulls out a knife. And he's not going to hurt Veer. There's a rule that if any Narn hurts Centauri, 500 Narn will die. There is nothing that Jakar can do to Veer physically. But what he does, cuts his hand. He holds it out. As he bleeds, he says, dead, 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 dead.
How do you apologize to them?
And Veer says, I can't. And Jakar says,
Then I cannot forgive.
it is a hell of a scene. As someone who is sort of descended from both colonizers and the colonized, and also who lives on colonized land, I feel a lot for both of these guys. I understand where they're coming from. For Jakar, there is an intense pressure on marginalized people to accept any apology and to move on, to accept just people feeling bad and saying, I'm sorry. And move on, offer grace so that society can keep going. It means accepting the quiet violence of silence and injustice for the appearance of peace. That doesn't actually break the cycle. And for Veer, I understand he feels horrible. His people just did he feels horrendous, and his actions contributed to that. But he's not actually apologizing, even as he's saying, I'm sorry. He's not taking responsibility for his part at all. He is just sort of spewing out his feelings and saying, I told them not to, and they didn't listen. They never listened. He's bringing his guilt and he's asking to be absolved, which is not actually an apology. An apology requires accepting what you did wrong. Apology requires action, changed action. And Veer has not done any of that. He is just pouring out his guilt. And so there is a power in Jakar refusing to accept it, refusing to absolve him. Not sweeping it under the rug, not making things better. And the thing is, Jakar is not being cruel here. He's being honest that he can't forgive. There is a tinge of regret in his voice, as if he wishes he could. Can't. Like I said, I understand where both of them are coming from. Somewhat. But I really understand Veer. What it is to feel, guilt for something your people have done, something perhaps you've participated in some way in. I am descended from colonizers in the British Empire, and I do live on colonized land. This country, so-called Canada, that gave my family a home, is built on a legacy of that word I'm not saying. Cultural and literal. Even within my lifetime, the residential schools, there was still a residential school open in my province when I graduated high school. I was a taxpayer in Saskatchewan when the Starlight Tours came to light. There have been things done, and I have feelings about things this country has done in, my name as a citizen. And I have feelings too about a prime minister who cannot even say the name ceasefire. And I want to say, this doesn't represent me. But it is a question of who do I bring those feelings to? What good would it do to, I see when I watch the videos from Basan and Motaz, I see people in there saying, this is not who we are. This is not we're trying, they're sort of, we're trying, we're sorry, we want you to see that we are sorry. And I get the feeling, but also like, I don't think that they're who we should be bringing those feelings to. That's a feeling for me to question who I am, and a feeling for me to take to the people who are supposed to be representing me. Because my guilt is not what matters, unless my guilt drives me to changed action. I can't take it to the dead. And to take it to the grieving is a form of violence. Again, to say, you must see my guilt, and my guilt matters more than your grief. It can't be right. There is a time for apologizing and a way to apologize, but it comes with changed actions, and it's not about guilt. But I think we all feel it, and we understand Veer in that moment. That he just wants so much for this thing to have not happened. He wants it to matter that he said not. That he said, please don't. And maybe it does matter. But it matters more that he did his job and he supported Londo. As I said, I understand them both. I mean, I think there's as much I don't understand Jakar's experience as there is that I do. But I do know what it is to have someone come to me with their guilt. many times and want me to absolve. And to absolve for things that it isn't my place to absolve. It isn't my place to accept apologies. And I know what it is to want to give that absolution, to want to make it better. I hear in Jakar's voice that regret that he can't accept the apology. But he does refuse. He refuses to absolve his reluctant oppressor. He offers him instead his truth. And this moment does change Fear. And it is also part of Jakar's longer arc, which talks more about forgiveness and atonement. Like, this is the middle of his arc. There is more to come, and there's more discussion of forgiveness. And it will touch on how important it is to say the words, "I'm sorry." But those words come with changed behavior. That is a scene for another day, I think. But yeah, this is a remarkable scene. And of course, you know why I've been thinking about it a lot lately. Who do we take? What do we do with our guilt? We don't do this. But guilt is uncomfortable. And I believe discomfort is a teacher. And so we can learn and we can try. And if our leaders do not represent who we see ourselves to be, then we have to look hard at who we are, or look hard at who our leaders are, or both. We have to take action. So, final thoughts on forgiveness. It is important to know what is an apology and what is just asking another to absolve you of your guilt. It is important to know what you can and cannot forgive. It is important that we recognize when marginalized people are being asked to forgive the unforgivable, to make things more peaceful for others. And that doesn't break the cycle of violence. That just leads to the oppressed people accepting violence. Forgiveness, true forgiveness, is an incredibly powerful thing. Apology, atonement is an incredibly powerful thing when it's real, when actions change. I would highly recommend the Leftist Cooks video on accountability that they did recently. It's goes really in depth into these topics, and I think it's really quite remarkable. And you should really watch Babylon 5. You should see this scene in context. I want to leave you with one other scene that Jakar gives, one speech by him, the episode before this particular episode. We'll see if I can get away with playing it for monetization. But it is a scene that comes right after he's learned that his planet has been, and he's ejected from the council on Babylon 5 and stripped of his title as ambassador, and this is the speech that he gives.
No dictator, no invader can hold an imprisoned population by force of arms forever. There is no greater power in the universe than the need for freedom. Against that power, governments and tyrants and armies cannot stand. The Centauri learned this lesson once. We will teach it to them again. Though it take 1,000 years, we will be free.
So, friends, forgiveness, apologies, atonement, complicated stuff. Yeah. If you have a scene about forgiveness or apologies and atonement kind of stuff that you will want to make, I'd love to see what you come up with. Yeah. I'd like to thank my Patreon supporters, my $10 supporters, Angela Delgado, Elijah M., and Tara Young. Thank you. You are awesome. And also to my $5 patrons that you will see in the thingy. And if you want to join them or give me, and if you want to join them on Patreon or give me a tip on one of the tippy things, that would be lovely so I can keep doing this. Or you can use your money to help some folks who need it and take action against the that is happening right now. I mean, there are a couple of them happening right now, but you forgive me as an Arab if my thoughts are in one particular place. So thank you, and hope you are all well.